here. I am so proud of you guys actually getting out of bed and making it in here, even if it is lunchtime. But no, it's still a great achievement, so thank you for that. I hope you all had a good time in Universal last night, or wherever you may have chosen to go. Yes? Feeling good? Okay. So we will enter the magical kingdom of how you get started with Microsoft Search instead. So really thrilled to be here. Hopefully many of you came to the session that we had earlier in the week where we sort of made a lot of the announcements around Microsoft Search and all the great capabilities we have both now and in the future. And what Matt and I wanted to do in this session is really just focus on, what can you do right now? What do you need to switch on? How do you enable all this good stuff that's coming? And recognize there are a lot of experiences coming in the future as well. So we're going to go through a few different things. How we set up Microsoft Search in Bing is going to be the primary piece of this session, and then a couple of other experiences around Office.com and SharePoint as well. I'm Naomi Moneypenny. I'm the Director of Teamwork at Microsoft 365. I look after search across Microsoft 365 too, and my wonderful companion.
I'm Matt Akers. I'm a Program Manager on the Bing team, and so I help bring all the great Bing technology to Microsoft Search.
Woohoo! Yeah. Awesomeness, yes.
Yes, indeed.
So, I'm really excited to be able to get this. So get your computers out. Enable this right away for your organizations. No, okay, all right.
Yeah, you can do it right now. Follow along.
It's all good, it's all good. All right, so just to sort of ground us a little bit with Microsoft 365, this really is Windows, Office, and the enterprise mobility and security pieces coming together. So a lot of the technologies we'll talk about obviously are just for Office 365, and we'll think about using the browser as part of that. We've got some great pieces around search that are coming into things like the Edge browser as well. But the Bing experiences and the experiences we'll talk about today are all through Office 365. There are, though, amazing experiences that are coming to Windows as well. So if you heard the session on Tuesday, we go through a few of those things. So recognize that there is really this idea of having one search everywhere that you're interacting with inside of Microsoft. When we look at this, it's really Microsoft Search, one capability. I will say that over and over again. One capability. Got it? Yep, one capability. Good. Every single search experience. So we recognize that right now you'll be seeing some disparate results. You're going to see some of that innovation delivered in some of the experiences like Bing much earlier than in other experiences. But please know that it is coming to every search box that you are interacting with across all of these products and many, many more that I couldn't get onto a PowerPoint slide. So do recognize that. One search box, same set of scoping, functionality, all those pieces coming together, contextualized for the experience where you're working in. So Microsoft Graph and that Bing technology coming together. And these are our three tenets. I'm not going to spend too much time on this, but when we think about really the delivery of the experiences that we want you to have, it's really about making them insightful, really about understanding you as a person, the work world where you're operating, and making sure that we're delivering insightfulness that actually helps you to harvest the collective knowledge of your company. We want you to have personalized experiences that obey, obviously, all of the security and privacy you have around your content, both in your work network and beyond, and then really looking at how we're looking at those experiences from a devices perspective, as well as those data stores as well. So that boundarylessness is something we're taking very seriously, whether it's the devices that you're interacting with, how that information is coming into the Microsoft Graph, and then how we think about the other kind of sources of data that your organization may be working with as well. So these are kind of our tenets when we think about Microsoft Search, and this is kind of what we're evolving towards over the next year or so. So today, I wanted to sort of really concentrate on the experiences that you can get right now, because I know you're pulling out your machines right now saying, I can enable this, feel the power. So I've had so many tweets already of people who have actually done this, so I'm really excited. So if you do actually switch it on for your org, please let us know. We always love to know about that. But what we have available today around these different experiences is around Microsoft Search and Bing, which Matt's going to go through right now, the Office.com header, which has gone into targeted release as of Monday, so I will showcase that a little bit too. We've got some online app pages, and we'll talk about those and the SharePoint pieces, and then Outlook as well. Okay, so for Bing.com, I'm going to hand it over to Matt, and we'll get going with the demo.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you were in the session earlier this week, you know that last year we invited a lot of you to come on the journey with us in our Bing for Business private preview, and it's super exciting now that we are in public preview and a part of Microsoft Search and Bing, and a lot of that came from the feedback that you gave us directly, and that's really the awesome part about being in a public preview with us, is that you get to help shape the product. As Naomi mentioned, the experiences that you will have in Microsoft Search will come to Bing first, and you can give us your feedback, and then eventually they will permeate across all of Microsoft 365, across all of the search boxes, so you have that same coherent experience wherever you're at. But we highly recommend you switch on Microsoft Search and Bing. I'm actually going to show you how to do it, walk through that as well, to get all of this great innovation and, again, help us shape the product and make it even better. Now, I'll just kind of give you a quick overview of what we're going to do, and then I'll actually walk through it live here on stage. So it all starts here. This is where you get to take a nice picture, if you already haven't, of aka.ms/Microsoft Search and Bing. This is where it starts, and you land on this Explore page. And this page serves two purposes. One, it helps you get to the admin experience to actually flip the switch and turn it on. And it also gives your users a nice overview of the experiences they can have in Microsoft Search and Bing, which I'll show you here in just a moment. From there, you just click on the admin experience. So that just click the button on the left, and we have a nice little pop-up here, which I'll show you. You scroll through. We kind of teach you how to do this. Then you're going to land in the Microsoft 365 Admin Center. So our service is under Settings and Services and Add-ins. And you scroll. We're actually just below the fold, which is such a bummer. I want it to be above the fold. But then you click Microsoft Search, and you just have one simple switch. Flip it on. You're ready to go. Once you've done that, you click that link there that says Launch the Microsoft Search Administration Tool. And then once you land there, you have a nice little tutorial to help you walk through this. And in just a few steps, you can import best bets, and then you're done. So I mean, this literally just takes you just a few minutes to get this done. We really tried to streamline this. Now, I will go in much more depth and detail to show you how I can get the most out of the experience, but in just a few minutes, you'll have this ready to go for your organization. And without further ado, why don't I actually show you, because that's much more exciting than me talking about it. All right, so here I am on that aka.ms/Microsoft Search in Bing, and you will land here on our Explore page. And so as I mentioned, there's kind of two ways here. You've got the admin experience as well as helping your users really understand. And I highly encourage you send your users here once you turn this on and broadly announce it so that they understand all the great functionality that they can get. Just searching in Bing. And so again, you've got all these kind of examples here. We've got these cool tutorial videos that we made. And so again, I highly encourage you to have your users watch these because these actually help them really start to understand what they can do. And it goes just in a little bit more depth to help them really get the most out of the experience. So let's go ahead and switch this on. And so again, we have this cool little pop-up that kind of says, hey, this is how you do it. Go here. So why don't we go ahead and get started. And hopefully my clipboard is still working. It is. So this is a tenant that I set up yesterday, just a demo tenant, and so I can show you how the experience works from start to finish. Grab that. No way I will ever remember that password. And sure, why not? Okay, and now we've landed in the portal. Hello, welcome. I don't need a tour. I'm quite familiar. Thank you. I always like to keep this flyout open so I know exactly where I'm navigating. But again, we go to Show More. Then we go to Settings. And then we're here in Services and Add-ins. And just one tiny scroll. It's right there. Oh, man, we were just almost there. One slot. So go ahead and click on Microsoft Search here. You get the little flyout. And again, one simple switch. Flip that on. What if you're not seeing that? It could be that you are either not the global admin or that you are not in the currently supported markets, which I will show you for a moment. You have to be an admin in a few different markets, and I'll show you those here in just a moment as part of our documentation when I get there. But please send us feedback on that, because if you aren't, even if you feel like you are qualified and you should be seeing us, please shoot us an email. I'm more than happy to take your personal email on that, so please let me know. So now I've done that. Microsoft Search has been updated. Now, this is a little bit goofy. We're going to try to fix this one because now you come back to this, and then this is where you get into our awesome Microsoft Search admin portal. And so here we are, and here's that tutorial I mentioned a little bit earlier. So again, just a few steps. So first off, we're going to say Get Started. Now, this is where you have a chance to decide what kind of experiences you want to light up in your organization. In this, right now, we've got them all turned on, but you can easily toggle these on and off. And so first, it's going to be People Search. That's powered by AAD information, so Azure Active Directory, and we crawl that as soon as you flip this switch so that we can get all of the people information to show people experience, as well as your organizational charts, management structure, all that good stuff. Next up is Groups. So we can surface modern Outlook groups, as well as security groups and distribution groups here as well. SharePoint, so we allow document and site search, including pages as well, on Bing.com as well. And then Microsoft Teams and Yammer conversations, which is something we just shipped recently, which is very cool. And if you were a part of that conversation on Tuesday, that came directly from your feedback in the private preview. It was not something we had in plan to surface surface Teams and Yammer conversations, but the feedback was so overwhelming for that, we actually moved things around in the schedule to accommodate. And that really, the proof point there is that you really can make a difference, even in a public preview here, to really shape the experience and help us you tell us what you want, and we will deliver it. So I've got all these set up. We're going to go ahead and just say next here, super simple. And this is where you get the chance to make your content shine and stand out so that your users can really understand that this is your workplace. This is your work results, so they can really feel confident and trust that. And so here we've got a default logo. Actually, I'll stop here and say these query suggestions, what they help you do is you get up to 5 sample queries that you get to program in. These will show up in the first run experience, and that's a little pop-up. So once your users are signed in with AAD on Bing.com, we do a little pop-up just to kind of welcome them to the experience, let them know they're signed in, and they can literally click these queries. You can update these as much as you want. So if there's something that you actually want to highlight or make sure they understand they can search for, you get the opportunity to have that conversation with your users right here. So I'll just keep those the way they are, and so I'm going to upload my cool Contoso logo, because we love Contoso. So I just upload that. Yes, I would like to use work content here. So then you see the logos there in real time. And this is pretty cool. Now you can actually change the color. And I think this is really important to choose a color that helps your organization. Whatever your brand color is, this is your chance to choose that. So again, and that will be used throughout the user experience. So again, it feels familiar. People understand and recognize that it's from work. So I think I can just do this, maybe darken it up a little bit. Pretty cool, huh? That looks pretty Contoso-y. What do you think? All right.
That's good.
Excellent. Cool. And just click next. So one other thing we did, again, based on your feedback very early in the program, is allow you to import your best bets or your suggested query rules. So if you've set these up in SharePoint already, this gives you a chance to import these and make sure that they all show up in Bing.com as part of bookmarks. Over time, we will consolidate these so you don't have 2 things to manage. We heard that feedback too. So we will make sure that that happens. But in the meantime, you can easily import these. So all you have to do is click import, and then we'll schedule that import. That usually takes place within just a few hours. Sometimes it's very fast. Sometimes it takes a little bit longer depending on the amount of them that you have. But just like that, I've got those imported. So I'm going to have some content to start with, and I'm done. So literally just a few minutes to get this set up, even with me talking, and here you are, and you're ready to go. So now I'll go walk you through a little bit more depth. So when you land in the admin portal, you're always going to land on what we call the dashboard. Now, this really gives you a chance to understand how Microsoft Search and Bing is being used in your organization. Now, of course, I haven't done anything yet, so I don't have any search queries here. But over time, as your users search for things, you will see those top queries that they are actually searching for. And you'll see the click-through rate as well, which really helps you understand the, kind of the performance of the particular features. So, for example, if you've added a bookmark, which I'll do in a moment, and that gets triggered often, but nobody's clicking on it, you might want to rethink maybe the URL you're using, because maybe that's not the thing that they're looking for. So it really helps you start to understand how your users are using the service and helps you get more insights into what you can do. And over time, we'll continue to update this and add more and more functionality. Now, the other thing I'll mention as well is that this is anonymized. So you're not going to be able to see individual users' queries. That's part of the trust measures that we employ. So you will see aggregate data, but know that you can only see it. Only the admin that is in control can see this data, and we don't get to see it. Actually, one of the interesting things is we are Tier C SOC 2 compliant, and because of that, I can't actually see what any company is searching for. So that makes sure that your data is protected, which is awesome. So next up, let's go add some bookmarks here. So bookmarks are one of the most powerful tools, I think, in Microsoft Search and Bing. They are so simple, yet so powerful. Now, we start you out with a default set of these so that you can kind of get started, and again, you can also import your existing best bets. But let me take you through the experience here. So you just click Add Bookmark. And now I'm here in my bookmark, and so I can enter in my title. So I'm going to do test because that's fun. And now you get a live preview in real time, which is super cool. So you can start to understand what your content looks like as you write it. And then we'll just do www.test.com. And of course, this can be anything you like it to be. You can even do a description here. So now I can kind of see what this is starting to look like, and then I'll add a keyword. Now, the keyword will also suggest them for you as well. The keywords are what's going to help this what we call trigger. And when a user types that particular query, that's going to make this bookmark show up, which I'll show you in just a moment. What's cool is we've also set up a thing we call super fresh bookmarks. And what that means is that as you publish these, they're instantly available. You don't have to wait for it to be crawled or anything like that. As soon as you do it, it'll show up right away. So here you have a ton of control over these bookmarks. Now, you've got things like dates, so you can choose a start and an end date. So if you want to have a particular announcement, maybe you're having a convention or you're having a team meeting or something like that, but that maybe not always be relevant, you can just choose it to end, and that way you don't have to go back and edit it again. It just won't show up anymore once you've scheduled that as well. You can choose these to be available in different regions or countries as well. So, for example, at Microsoft, we've got 2 different tools to enter in your vacation, one for worldwide employees and one for US employees. But what this allows you to do is allows you to target a specific region and say, hey, I want this bookmark to show up in this region, or I want this other one to show up here. And that way you get a little bit more fine-grained control over how that will show up. You've also got groups, so you can limit these to security groups as well as distribution groups and modern groups, which is fantastic. So, for example, we've got, legal department, we've got an HR department, maybe they want to see 2 different types of things, but you don't want the other one to see it, and this allows you to have that focused, targeted, bookmark showing up for only those specific groups that you choose. You can also target by device and operating system. So if you want just one to show up differently on mobile, and maybe you want one to show up differently on the desktop, you have that functionality there as well. And you can do targeted variations. This gets really, really cool, where you can say, actually, I want to vary this bookmark content based on device and location. So I can say, hey, I want to use the same keywords, but I want it to show up differently. And this gives you the ability to actually get super fine-grained control. And you can add tons of different variants on this as well. And finally, one of the coolest things I think we've done yet is giving you the ability to associate a Power App with a bookmark. So if you saw the demo on Tuesday, I actually demoed the live in Microsoft tenant where we've associated our vacation app. So any existing Power App you have, literally all you have to do is just paste in the GUID here. Done. And then when your user types that keyword, the Power App will show up alongside the bookmark. And so, for example, we use the vacation app because it's a great example where literally our time and absence reporting site is probably from the turn of the century. I'm not kidding. I don't think it's been updated. I think it's using VB6, seriously. And so I hate going to that tool, and I can never remember that URL, but I don't have to anymore. I can literally just type time off, and the Power App shows up right there, and I can complete that task right in the browser and the search experience, which is super awesome. And so tons of possibilities with that. And if you have existing Power Apps, again, all you have to do is just plug in that GUID, and you're ready to go. So let's go ahead. That's kind of the basics and details around bookmarks, but let's go ahead and publish this one. So once you're done with your bookmark and you have it the way you want, you just hit publish, and done. Now, you can also save drafts. You can delete them. We have some versioning as well. And so now if I go back, you're going to see that test bookmark right here. So you do have the ability to select all of these if you wish, or just one. And if you want to go back and edit, you can always do that just by clicking the bookmark itself. And again, we've got a set here. So let me show you here. Let's just go to bing.com. There I am, Mr. Mod. And so this bookmark shows up right here. Now, you'll notice that it showed up in the context tree. So that's literally the one that I just published, which is super cool. So super fresh, like I said, worked instantly. Now, you'll notice, and see, there's that first run experience. Remember I mentioned earlier we showed a little pop-up to kind of welcome the user. You'll see it's already using the branding. It's got those suggested queries that were programmed in there, and so it's ready to go. Now, you notice earlier it showed up in the context region, and that's because if we have high confidence in something, we will trigger it in what we call the poll, and that's the top region of Bing.com. If we're a little less confident, we'll still show it, but we'll put it in the context region. And the reason we do that is if there's typically broad terms that may be like vacation or something that may not be work-related, we still want to surface that to users. We don't want to annoy them, right? Because they may just be doing a general web search. So we do a lot of work in relevance and ranking to make sure that we're not what we call over-triggering these results. And so we get a little bit of flexibility there to still show work content, but put it to the side just in case it's something that might be a little bit more broad, because we don't want to get in your user's way if they're just wanting to search the web. So there you go. That is bookmarks, and that is super fresh as well. So let's get back to the admin portal here. Next up are Q&As. So bookmarks are a really great way to help people navigate to content. But sometimes maybe you just want to give them the answer right then and there so that they don't have to ask the question or even navigate anywhere because you want to show that. So you've got a ton of functionality here in Q&As. But one thing you can do with both bookmarks and Q&A is you can import via CSV. And so we give you a template here that you can use, and this makes it super easy. This is also based on your feedback as well. We gave you the ability to bulk import. What you can do here, I like the flexibility of this because you can actually say to someone here, go fill out this spreadsheet for me, and even if they're not the admin, they can still add that content right in as well, so you can kind of outsource that ability if that's something you choose to do. So let me just show you a quick example of importing a Q&A. Got my Q&A import template here, and again, you can download these templates right here and then fill them out yourself, and then if any errors come up, it will let you know as well. It says, hey, I found one Q&A to update and import, and we're done, just like that. Is Microsoft Search and Bing awesome? I'm gonna say yes. So let's try that out. And it is awesome. Oh, my super fresh Q&A is not working, but you can imagine what it would be like if it did. It's live code, man. See, I'm walking on the rails, buddy. Anyway, but that's how easy it is to import Q&A. And so again, you can do that for bookmarks as well. And like I said, again, I'll emphasize that bookmarks are a great navigational tool to help you get to those intranet resources that people can never remember the URL for. But Q&As are a really fantastic way to just help answer their questions right then and there. And it gives you a lot of flexibility over that as well. Next up, you do have a ton of control over both the admin experience itself and who can access it, as well as who can access the content on Bing.com as well from a user perspective. So as you can see here, I am Mr. Mod Administrator. Now you can add admins, and admins will have control over the entire experience. They can change anything. But we also introduced this thing called an editor role. And editors can only change content that appears in the search results. So now you can delegate and say, hey, I only want somebody to be able to update bookmarks and Q&A, for example, but not be able to turn things globally on or off. So this gives you a lot of flexibility in who you can assign to actually administrate the Microsoft Search and Bing experience, which is really great to have that flexibility. And finally, preview users. Here's where you can actually, if you want to kick the tires a little bit before you light it up globally. Now, of course, I'm going to say just flip it on for everyone because it's awesome. But just in case you want to coordinate off to a specific group of people, you can add security groups, distribution groups, or modern groups here and actually restrict access to the entire product to that set of people, which is pretty awesome. And so what we found a lot in our private preview users is that you might turn it on for yourself and maybe 10 other folks on your team who want to kick the tires and kind of test it out, and then just gradually roll it out over time. And so that gives you the flexibility to do that as well, which is awesome. So that's that. And then finally, if you want to revisit your connected services, at any time you can always come back here and flip things on and off. So if you decide, for example, that you don't want group search anymore, you can turn that off and it just won't show up in the user experience anymore if you want that. But again, we encourage you to keep it all on because it's awesome. Content settings. So if you remember earlier, this is where I kind of set up my logo and the color, and what's cool here is you get a live preview as well, so as you change things, this updates in real time. So if your brand changes or your color changes, you can always go back and edit that here. And as I mentioned before, you can also update your query suggestions that show up in that first run experience. And you can also update a feedback email address. So there we have a little feedback button in there which does two different things. This is either one of two things. So here's kind of how I explain it to people. We've partnered with User Voice. So if your users or you want to send feedback to us, the product team, this is how you do it. You fill out whatever you want to say in this box. We will take and review all of that feedback. So this is your chance to have the conversation with us about how you love the experience, or even sometimes when you don't. We want to hear that too. But this is the send an email function as well here. So if your users have feedback for you, as an admin, they still have a way to communicate with you here. And again, you can put whatever email address you prefer there so that you can hear from your users as well. And then the last thing I'll show you is this awesome tools section, which continues to grow. So a couple of really cool things here that I'll touch on. First, we've got this content creator browser extension. So you're probably saying, Matt, I don't want to update all these bookmarks all the time and these Q&A, and that's going to be a pain. Well, we created an extension for you so that you can visit any page in your organization and create a bookmark automatically with automatic keywords and publish that right from the extension. This gives you a ton of functionality. Now for Q&A, this is where it gets super cool. You can go to any FAQ page you have that's existing, and we partner with Q&A Maker team to actually crawl that page and create question and answer pairs and keywords automatically right there. So this is the greatest way for you to get your content up and running. And again, I highly encourage to take that time to update those bookmarks and Q&A, because that's really what's going to give that instant value to your users. So grab these extensions again for Chrome and Edge. I know you love Edge, you use it all the time, but in case you use Chrome, that's cool too. We built it there as well. And then finally, we've got another search extension, and this is for end users. So what this allows is your user to actually have an extension in either browser. If they prefer Chrome, it's cool, man. I'm not going to hate on it. They can have an extension to get to Microsoft Search and Bing at any time. So let me kind of show you how those work just really quickly. I won't go too far, but you can see this. So here's the end user extension. And so this is super cool because now they have access to this no matter where they are, right? They don't even have to navigate to bing.com. They can see everything here, search the web in your organization. These suggested searches are actually based on the queries that your users are doing in your organization. So these are literally the top queries in Microsoft right now. And so we populate that dynamically over time. So that's ever changing. It really helps your users kind of understand what they can get out of it and have really quick ways to get to the things that are top of mind for a lot of folks. You can also suggest bookmarks from here too. So if your user wants to see bookmarks, so for example, maybe you haven't created their favorite URL. Well, they get a chance to tell you that here. And so they can basically enter in the title, the URL they want. If you notice, we're actually automatically pulling in keywords here so that you don't have to go rethink all of the keywords, which is great. And from right here, they can just send that to you, and it will end up in your suggested folder. And bookmarks, it won't actually publish it. You have a chance to moderate that before it gets published. But this is a great way to help you, again, create a really robust set of content and get to what your users are really looking for, which is great. And this has helped us at Microsoft. We have over 1,400 bookmarks right now. A lot have come from user suggestions because we have about 1 million different sites and pages. And it's hard for everybody to know the exact right one, but this gives a chance for your users to do that as well. And let me see if we've got this guy on too. Yeah, here's the content creator extension as well, but I won't get too far into that, but you guys should totally download it, give it a shot. It's pretty awesome, I'm telling you, it's going to really help. So continuing on, couple other things we've done. We have a AAD sign-in. So because we are securing these work results, we do that through AAD. So your users to access this experience must be signed in with their work credentials, their AAD credentials. And once they are, everything is now secured. So just to kind of pinpoint just a little bit on security, obviously we take it very seriously, and we've employed a lot of different trust measures to ensure that the queries that your users are typing in are anonymized. So when you're searching with the other guy, I can tell you right now, those queries are leaking out. If they're searching for secret project XYZ, you don't have to do that too many times for that to start showing up as secret project XYZ for the world to see. And somebody who might be a little bit enterprising could certainly do reverse IP lookup on some of that stuff and figure out what you might be secretly working on. But with Microsoft Search and Bing, once you're logged in with AAD, those queries are now logged completely separate from their other Bing.com logs. We don't use those queries to train public web models. They don't train auto-suggest, so when you're typing ahead. And they're purged every 18 months as part of GDPR regulations. You also have the ability to clear those out yourself if you wish. But that's just one of the trust measures. The next thing is that they're anonymized for advertisers. Any of the ads that are shown, they aren't targeted to the user, they aren't targeted to your organization, keeping you safe and secure. But again, we do that all through AAD, and that's one of the biggest benefits, I would say, outside of the great user experience we have in Microsoft Search and Bing, is that you can feel a lot more comfortable with what your employees are searching for on your internet because you know it's safe and secure with Microsoft Search and Bing. And this extension here helps you get them signed in Chrome. So silent sign-on or SSO is great when you're using Windows 10. We highly encourage it because those credentials that are on the box are automatically populated in Bing.com. But in Chrome, it's a little bit more difficult, so we've got an extension here that allows those creds to be pulled in so that your users are seamlessly signed in and they don't even have to think about it, and they can enjoy all that great work content there. You can also import your top SharePoint queries. So we work closely with the SharePoint team to have an API so that we can look at the top queries that you have, and we can automatically create bookmarks for you from those as well. And then finally, if you didn't do the, import the SharePoint promoted result queries, aka best bets, you can do that here as well at any time, especially if those update, you can just go ahead and hit that import button anytime you wish. So from there, I'm almost done, I promise. I know you're having fun though, and I know you want to go eat some food, but it's pretty fun to talk about this, right? You can always restart that quick setup wizard that I showed you earlier at any time. So maybe if you have a new admin come on and you want to help them get acquainted with the experience, you can always go turn that back on so that they can walk through that tutorial as well. And finally, we've got a ton of great support content as well. We worked very hard to make sure that anytime you need to review any of this content, it's right here at support.office.com. and you can always link to it from here. Everything that I just showed you, you can go back and re-review or point new admins to or editors to or even your users in the end. And this goes from everything from Access, Microsoft Search, and Bing. And let me pause one moment because I did have that question earlier about the requirements. So really quickly, a few things. So you only have to have a few things. AAD, of course, we talked about. SharePoint, either online or hybrid setup. Exchange, and it's also a part of all of these different subscriptions. So this could be in some cases why maybe you aren't seeing it is because you may not have these particular subscriptions. It's most all of the enterprise level subscriptions because it's enterprise search, of course. And currently, it is available. You need to be an Office 365 global admin in one of these countries currently. Now note, this does not restrict your users from using the service no matter what country they're in. This is just about seeing the switch and being able to flip it on. But if they travel or they're elsewhere, the service will work worldwide. So you don't have to worry about that. But these are the current markets, and we plan on increasing that market size and scale over time, of course. So I think that is just about it for setting all this up. So again, you can take the first 5 minutes and get this going really quickly, or you can go in depth like I just did. But again, I highly encourage you to take the time because I think you're going to find that the productivity gains you're going to get from your workforce are well worth the time that you'll spend to make this a great experience. So thanks very much for giving me the time to show you a little bit about setting up Microsoft Search and Bing.
Thanks so much, Matt. So I hope that you're actually going to go ahead and flipping the switch right now. As Matt mentioned, we are going to look at these other countries that we want to roll out to as well. This is our initial list. This is our public preview. We just announced on Monday. We wanted to make sure we could actually ship it for Ignite. And so that's one of the reasons we have a small amount of countries on there right now. It is, as he said, you have to be a tenant admin in one of those organizations to see that switch. It doesn't affect where your employees are accessing the service from, though. And we do have plans. So if you are absolutely desperate to be like, I want to see the switch immediately, feel free to come bug Matt and myself, and we will make sure that that happens okay, for you. The other couple of pieces that I wanted to showcase for you, we've got about 10 minutes or so left, and I wanted to showcase a few things that the other experiences that we're also shipping as part of this. So you may have seen in the session on Tuesday, one of the areas that we've rolled out to targeted release is the same Microsoft Search functionality inside of Office.com. So you do need to be in targeted release. If you're not familiar with that program for Office 365, I've put a link to the admin documentation here. It's something we've had for quite a long time in terms of being basically in a faster ring versus a slower ring for your organization, but it's helpful to sort of be reminded about that. I want to show you just how things get rolled out, basically. This is a way that you can control the features and functionalities that come out for Office 365, such that you can see some of those functions early for some users, or you can set your entire tenant to go fast if you want to see functionality before other folks, and be able to experiment with that as well. So in the case of Office.com, this is rolling out to targeted release, and that's dependent on whether you've said selected users for your organization or for the entire tenant. Oftentimes, if you're part of a big enterprise, you may already have like a test tenant that you have, and you check out the new releases as they come, and that's something you should be seeing already as well. There's no dependency on the country here. It really is about whether you've opted in as a tenant level thing there. So I just want to sort of mention that because oftentimes I get a lot of questions on targeted release and standard release and those functions. These are things that are governed by Office 365 generally and apply to all of the functionality that gets rolled out. So with that functionality, what you will see that is different is this brand new header at the top of Office.com. You'll also see these other areas too light up. Before we did not have this recommended switch here, so you'll actually see that recommended area. And that recommendation area is powered by the notifications and the mentions of the content that people have been working on. This is all powered by personalized search. So every user is going to see the things that they have access to. I want to be very clear about that. You're not going to get recommended content that you do not have access to, right? So it is all the same security. It's all backed, again, from an Azure Active Directory perspective. Whatever you have file permissions on are going to be displayed. That's the content that is the scope of what you could be possibly displayed here. Same thing here on this Discover tab. So this also surfaces up content from across your organization, things that it thinks are useful to you, powered by the graph. And in this case, because I'm on a demo tenant, I don't have any discovery recommendations, but you'll be familiar, hopefully, with that feature from before. Now, with this great new search box that we have, we can actually do a search right in here. And as soon as I click in here, this is being powered by that zero query experience. So I've clicked in, it actually knows who I am because I'm obviously logged into office.com, and I'm seeing their recommendations of content based on things that I've worked on before. So it's actually the people that I work with the most, it's showing me files that I most recently have accessed, and sites that I go to a lot. And so you don't currently have any ability to customize this, right? Right now it's driven totally from personalized signals across Office 365. We talked about on Tuesday, and I'll take questions at the end, sorry. I talked about on Tuesday that we are going to allow you to modify these query suggestions, but that won't be until probably the summer of next year, just being realistic about that. But know that it is coming, right? The same kinds of customization you would expect with other experiences that we have in the suite right now. It is something we're working on for personalized search as well. So as soon as I start, doing a search in here, so I can start, searching for M, for example, you'll see I also get applications at the top of the page here. So in this case, I'm seeing My Analytics. That's because I have access to that capability. So this is something that comes from an E5 subscription, and so if you have an E5 subscription, you would see that app or that set of apps there. Just want to be very clear, again, you will not be recommended apps that you do not have access to, right? We are not trying to use this as a marketing channel or anything else, right? This is something you only see the stuff that you have content access to. Now, in addition to this, with the power of Azure Active Directory, if you are currently using AAD to actually make other apps from other companies available to your users, you can get those apps available here. So an example of that would be, for example, ServiceNow, right? If you are using ServiceNow inside of your corporation and you're using your Azure Active Directory credentials to surface that to your users, you'll actually get that recommendation of ServiceNow being in this box as well. So it's not just the Microsoft apps, it's any app that you have access to through AAD. So when we think about getting started with Microsoft Search, I do want to reiterate for any companies that might be out there that are not currently thinking about Azure Active Directory or have got some work to do in making their AD look beautiful, and you know who you are, your trees and organizations, if they're messy right now, this is something I would highly, highly, highly recommend to go back in a lot of the content that we've had at Ignite this week to talk about AAD and really have good hygiene around AAD, because it is so fundamental to everything we're doing for personalization of search, how we surface up applications, how we surface up content. It's really fundamental. So, make sure that you're talking with your admin colleagues about, are we really putting in some best practices around how that works as well. So that's sort of targeted release and talking about Office.com. This same search header is the thing that we will be seeing rolled out over multiple applications. So as part of Monday's release as well, you should be seeing this as soon as you go into experiences like Word Online, for example. I know that currently we have custom theme up here, so it's hard to see that it's actually flicked into Word, but it really has gone into Word. So we can go there. If I go into PowerPoint Online, I'm still seeing that same header, and you can see, it's got the commands for a new blank presentation, etc. You will expect to see the same header coming to every single application that you have in Microsoft 365. So with its Sway, OneNote, the desktop applications, all of those things, that same header is coming. I mention this because it's important when you're planning your intranet of the future. Expect to have a big search box, right, in the next few months rolling out. So during 2019, when you're refreshing your intranet and thinking about all that great content, a big old search box is going to be up there, right? So just think about that too in your planning. We will allow you to have some degree of customization around how the scoping of that search box works in a specific site or on your intranet in different ways, but there will be a big search box up in the header. So just reiterating that from a planning perspective because it is important. Okay, a couple of other things that I wanted to share as part of this. I wanted to flick into some of the information we have around hybrid search as well. And so this is a great white paper. If you are currently on-prem right now and you're still investigating hybrid search, or maybe you haven't configured your on-prem and your SharePoint Online to work together, this is, of course, part of the Microsoft Graph. The way you get your on-prem content currently to surface into the Microsoft Graph and be part of the Microsoft search experiences wherever they're being surfaced is through this cloud hybrid search application. Cloud SSA, we call it for SharePoint. We have the link here for SharePoint 2016. It's going to work in a very similar way for 2019. We are going to make upgrades, of course, but the same process and the same cloud SSA technology that you've been using is what we're going to showcase as part of that. So there is a 26-page white paper here on how to get started with setting it up, right? So to be able to showcase that as part of what you're doing. I also make mention of this Technic article here too for Cloud Hybrid Search Service because there's some great FAQs in here in terms of what happens with OneDrive for Business if I'm syncing to on-prem and I have some content in the cloud and all that good stuff. So all of those kind of situations that you may come across in terms of how do I make sure that my content, the right content, is surfacing up into the Microsoft Graph. You do have discretion when you're doing Cloud SSA in terms of the level of data and the detail that's going up there, and so you can actually set those permissions appropriately, and it's part of the work that we're doing over time. Okay, a couple minutes left. The other thing I wanted to invite you to join is over on the tech community. I'm sure many of you are already members, but if you're not, I do encourage this. In the techcommunity.microsoft.com, we actually now have a new space, you can see it up here, called Microsoft Search. So you find that from the Communities menu here, and then you'll get this nice page here, and you can check out Microsoft Search. Now, we've had all the engineering teams from Bing, from Office, from a lot of other experiences. We'll be watching the posts that go on in here, and this will be kind of our place to sort of do those double-click blogs on some of the new functionality that's rolling out over time. So I just want to make sure you're aware of that as well. You can continue to submit feedback, as Matt showed you, through the tool for Microsoft Search in Bing, and it'll actually do that user voice query, and you could upvote and do all that good stuff. But this is also another place to be watching for sort of new announcements and then conversations, or if you're running into problems or anything else, this is a place for us to go and to connect in there as well. The last piece I wanted to showcase for you is just the SharePoint mobile app. I think it's 5. Hopefully that's the right one. Sorry. Too many things here on the side here. So we talked about that. We've talked about the SharePoint Office apps here. And then the SharePoint mobile app. If that is not something you have downloaded as a company, I strongly, strongly encourage it. We have a brand new build that came out. It is really a great experience. And as soon as you go into that SharePoint mobile app, you are defaulted onto the Find tab. Right, so we think search is so important, we've actually critically put it on the SharePoint mobile app as the first experience you land in. And there you're able to customize things like, popular searches, curated searches, things that you're getting. So you get the best of both personalized search as well as search that you've curated as an organization. Now, over time, this SharePoint mobile app is going to be a really great place to think about those questions and answers. You saw Matt put in a sort of a manually curated Q&A here. In the future, as we talked about on Tuesday during 2019, you'll see much more automated questions and answers coming in here as well. So you'll actually be able to ask actual questions directly in here. So this is a great place, again, to surface up that content, share people cards, share content, all of these different areas. So our goal, again, is to have one search capability in every single search experience, right? So across all the applications you're working with, whether it's SharePoint, inside of Office apps, on the desktop, on your mobile, on the, in Edge, in Windows, in Bing, everywhere. So to have one search capability with that one experience everywhere. We ask for your patience because it will take us time to roll it out to all of these different experiences, but please know that it is coming, and it is definitely key to us to have that same experience everywhere. Okay, with that, I'm going to close it out because I think we've covered all the areas we need to, and I'm happy to take questions. But otherwise, I thank you again so much for being here. We definitely appreciate it and look forward to your feedback on Microsoft Search. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thanks very much. Over there, I think.
Oh, sure, go for it. Sorry.
Okay. Presumably, when you flip the switch, you get all the other search boxes as well, not just Bing Search. That turns on all the other search experiences.
Yeah, so it's rolling out that capability. For right now, the first switch that you see is obviously for Bing.com. So when it's going to power that experience, because it's a brand new one that's in public preview, we need you to actually opt in when it's public preview versus targeted release, where Office.com will just roll into customers who already have targeted release.
You get that, but flicking that switch will then bring the search bar up the middle as well, across the top of everything?
So that's what I'm saying. So in Office.com, if you're on targeted release, you're going to see that search box without having to opt into it. Yeah,
you said.
Sorry.
All right, no, I get it.
It's okay. Yeah, I know it's confusing. I realize we have a lot of different experiences, and I apologize that it feels a little different, but we have to roll these things out in the correct way for the way that customers have already opted in for it.
Understood. I just misheard.
So it's okay. No, good. All right, go for it, Luke.
Okay, question on the requirement you mentioned, Exchange. Can you clarify that?
Yeah, I mean, we use Exchange data to power some of that people experience. So if you don't have Exchange, then we
We need Exchange Online.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So that way, because we leverage some of the mailbox technology to actually power that, and so that gets a pretty critical, back-end piece.
Okay. And then or request rather, this is for global admin role. Any idea of a search admin role?
Just that editor role, that's all we have right now for search.
If somebody controlling all the sources, etc., that would not be a global admin.
Okay.
That would be.
All right.
Okay.
That's good.
Good feedback, yeah.
Good to know. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Go over there, I guess.
Couple there.
And,
Hi,
I was trying to
thanks.
get
That was a great
trying
talk.
to go,
Just a question on the Q&A. If we've got a couple of Q&A maker knowledge bases, would we be able to point to them from within the Microsoft Search?
We currently aren't doing that, but we are working on that. And so the Q&A maker integration we have now is simply that extension that I mentioned earlier, and it leverages that same tech. But right now it's about using that to point to FAQs to automatically generate. But we're actually working with the Q&A maker team to make it a bit more robust. So thanks for that feedback. That helps us solidify that direction.
Perfect, thanks.
Is there an API for importing the Q&A pairs available right now?
There is not one that's publicly exposed, but we have had that feedback. So we're definitely working on more of API level access for you to have a little bit more robust control. But there is a secure API we use to do it. It's just not exposed publicly yet.
Okay, thanks.
So quick question about the targeted, just so I understand it again. So I got about 1,000 users on the targeted release mode. They will see it, no one else will.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
With respect to the extensions that you have there, so the leakage thing is scaring me a little bit there. So if they're not logged in with that extension, then it could potentially leak the query?
It's not necessarily an extension thing. It's just more about being logged into Bing.com with your AAD credentials. So it's that causes us to do all the security measures.
If they're not logged into Bing.com with their Active Directory credentials, then
If you were using
Just like today.
another engine
Right.
to do searching, then
It's just a public one at that point.
Oh, okay, got it.
Yeah.
Now, the extension that you did show to log in to this as well, what about if I got the My Apps extension that we use for Office 365? So we have a bunch of Chrome users and Safari users and other stuff out there. Microsoft makes it's called a My Apps extension there, where it signs them into Office 365 with their AAD credentials. If they were logged in that way, would they still then be logged into?
Exactly. Once you come to Bing.com, we'll silent sign on right there, and we'll pull the creds
I
over.
can use that extension instead of this one, and I get the same
same
factor.
results.
Exactly, because once they're logged in with AAD on another property across Office, then when they come to Bing, that transfers over, so make it that much easier.
Okay, and then, but the clear thing is that if they're not logged into Azure AD, things could leak.
Yeah, just like a public search engine.
Understood.
today.
Understood. Okay, but there are some people who are going to ask me this question.
Sure.
No, I understand.
Because we don't normally have people searching secret project XXX on
On the
public
internet.
search engine, right?
Yep,
So it's
exactly.
okay.
Yep, that's why it's a nice secure functionality to have when they're logged in with AD. Yeah.
Right.
Cool.
Sorry, thanks.
So with all these new capabilities coming up, will SharePoint search at some point in time disappear?
So it's not so much disappearing as SharePoint search is already in the Microsoft graph, right? So the personalization and everything is there, right? So the SharePoint files, all the content, all that good stuff. What you're probably thinking about with SharePoint search is the ability we have to customize what you have in the Enterprise Search Center right now, right? And so that's what I talked about on Tuesday a little bit. Like, we will have that degree of customization coming to the modern search experience, but it won't be just SharePoint. The goal of it is really to deliver that level of customization wherever you are in the suite. Right, so that same search box should perform the same way if you're in PowerPoint as it does in Edge, as it does in Bing.com, as it does in Windows, as it does in SharePoint. So the idea of, the Enterprise Search Center will still be there. You can still do whatever you need in SharePoint, but this is even bigger if you think about it, right, from a customization perspective. We want something that appears everywhere.
So when you get to the point that this new search experience can do everything the SharePoint search can do now?
During 2019, that's all I'm saying right now. Next year, but during the 2019. Thank you, Luke.
Are there any plans for controls or granularity around guest users in the tenant or search?
Right now, we are not supporting that, but you're not the first person to ask for that.
So right now, they don't see.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, but we've heard that. So if that's something that you desire, that's something that we've
Want to
been
make sure they can't see.
Okay, yeah, so you're good.
Or that we can control what they can see.
Right. Yeah. Nice shirt.
Oh, thank you. So my question is, Where are the conversation results? Like, where is the search index stored? And like when it surfaces those results, like where are those being stored in the background?
So for conversations specifically, we're actually calling in directly to Teams and Yammer APIs. So we're actually not crawling and indexing that ourselves. We're just crawling into the, we're just actually accessing their API data there. So essentially the same search experience you have in Yammer and Teams and the clients themselves is the same kind of results you would see in Microsoft Search and Bing.
So we obey basically all of the regulations of where you have the data stored already. And so we're dependent on those services to actually do that. So if you're doing multi-geo, right, which you could be doing all kinds of things. If you're doing geolocation of data wherever that service is, that's the one that we are obeying. So when we think about the central search index, it's really part of the Microsoft graph overall.
And what about, let's say, the files in SharePoint, where those live in the background, I guess?
Yeah, so again, we're querying back to those engines to ask that, yeah. So we're not re-indexing and putting it somewhere like in North America, for example, right, to do that. We're actually just calling back. We have a lot of, obviously, internal APIs that are calling back to get that information wherever it's stored. So we're making sure we comply with all of both the regulatory perspective as well as where you've decided to do data sovereignty.
Thank you.
Are things we've set up like customized info cards and location cards, are they allowed to be imported? Can we import those into the search?
That's a good question. If they're are they best bets right now, or are there customizations in the search center?
I mean, we crawl simple lists and like an acronym finder, basically. We've set that up within an info card.
Okay.
So someone searches an acronym card, they get a card that fires, and it appears in the SharePoint search results.
Okay. Yeah, so that sounds like an adaptive card issue. So I don't think right now we would have that because it's an enterprise search center feature, but it is something we'd work to. Interestingly enough, acronyms is one of the things we think about a lot. So something that's on our roadmap.
Yeah, we're working on some cool tech in Bing using some of our AI techniques to actually automatically generate acronyms that are specific to your organization, which is super cool. And if you're like us, I literally have 7,000 acronyms at Microsoft. It's kind of embarrassing. And so anyway, we're working on that. We have actually got, because I think it's a little bit cumbersome, right, to kind of have to curate that yourself and keep it up to date. And if you're like us, the same acronym yesterday could be different 2 days from now. And so we are working on some tech to actually automatically do that for you.
Sweet. Thank you.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So it's,
One more? Go for it.
sorry. Have you guys given any thought at all to maybe separate type URL where this leaking thing really freaks me out a little bit, and I can think our privacy people and stuff are going to have a hard time getting their heads around this. But somewhere to, again, just minimize the risk opportunity. Or the other thought I just had, again, I'm thinking on the fly here with this one, but if I search it from the Office portal, and that's not going out to the Bing on the thing, that's just searching my local
It's
tenant.
just always your intranet, right? The question is with consumer web searching, right? You just open a browser and you're searching the interwebs, right? The internet,
Yeah.
right? So the question is what happens to that search query? Right. So, and then, obviously we're taking a lot of steps when you're logged in and we understand that you're part of an organization. We're taking a lot of steps to basically ensure your anonymity on that data and make sure that it's not leaking
It's
out.
the logged in part that.
Yes. Yeah. So it understands I'm on the intranet and it's acting as if it was, on your intranet, and it understands that. So the question is when your employees are just doing regular web searches, right now, which is obviously we've all been doing for years and years and years, right? That data is possible to aggregate, to coalesce in other ways to think about.
But they're not searching for project 123 secret.
Right.
project
That would be
one.
reliant. One of the reasons we even developed Microsoft Search in Bing is because we saw there was a good percentage of people who just have the habit to go to the web to search because they don't know where to search on their intranet or how to get to it or anything else. And so they just search the general web. And that's one of the reasons we developed this search experience in the first place.
Do you guys have some stats or anything to back that up? Because that might help. Because I see the benefit of this.
I have stats, but I'm not sure I can publicly put them out there.
Yeah, and we do have, as part of that documentation I showed you on support, there is I think a blurb that we publicly put out about security and how we achieved our Tier C SOC 2 compliance, and that was a part of those trust measures that we put in.
It's logged in, right?
Yeah.
Got to be logged in, though.
Logged in.
That's the key.
I would encourage people to always log in. Your data is worth money. Remember that.
Thanks for the great session.
Thank you.
A question, in my company, lots of people are not using Microsoft products, Confluence and other sources. Is there a possibility to also use this search and have
I think you and the lady in front there are Confluence people, so it's interesting. So it's all good. So connectors we talked about on Tuesday. So we have publicly stated that we will have connectors to popular third-party applications, but we're not disclosing which ones of those that we are right now. But yes, we are working on it. Thank you.
Thanks very much, everyone. Really appreciate it.
Thanks so much.